You know when you go to the movies and at the end of the movie you're sitting there and the credits are running and you're trying to think, what do I actually feel about this movie? I had that experience with Fantastic Four, and ultimately the feeling I had was this was good, but it wasn't great. And today I want to talk about why I feel like it was just good and why it wasn't great, and maybe some things that I think could have got it to that level for me. Of course, all of this stuff is subjective. You might have watched this movie and thought, this was the most amazing movie I have seen in the last 10 years, and that's fantastic, and I'm happy for you. I came out of it thinking, I'm really glad I watched it, but man, I just needed a bit more. I never saw the ancient Fantastic Four movie, but I grew up with the ones in the 2000s, and as a kid, loved them. I thought they were epic. It's one of those things where you watch a movie, and then retrospectively, you think back and you think, was she trying to use her invisible powers to remove pimples on her wedding day? And then you think, maybe that movie wasn't as great as I thought it was. So, this Fantastic Four movie is the best one that they've done. It's pretty epic and got lots of awesome aspects about it. So, let's get into some of those. Starting with the Fantastic Four. Pedro Pascal, he is in flippin' everything these days. In everything. He's in everything. And to the point where it's like, is there nobody else to cast? There are thousands of really talented, wonderful actors who really want to be part of these films, and it's like, there's no one else. And then you watch him in the film and you think, man, he's good. He captures the role really, really well. He does a good job. A real awesome aspect about it is that he captures that feeling of Reed Richards where he might make decisions that aren't necessarily emotionally intact, but more ethical, practical kind of ideas. And they present that really well in the film when there's this idea of, let's just give him Franklin, little baby, and we'll sort out the problem. You know, putting that forward as a suggestion, you can kind of see there is maybe something that's a bit off about this guy. Pedro Pascal, as much as I want to be like, oh, should have chosen someone else, was great, and I'm glad they've got him because he's perfect for the role and the way that they've portrayed him. I must say, like Mr. Fantastic's powers, his powers aren't that amazing. He just stretches a lot. When I think about it, it's like he can reach across the room without having to really walk, or he can kind of stretch and climb up things. But I don't really know how useful they are. I mean, you could just fly, and that'll kind of give you the same result. Ultimately, I mean, Reed Richards, his power is his intellect and his ability to navigate things, and because of him, it seems that there's a lot of technological advances in this film. Vanessa Kirby was great in the role. She did a good job. I thought she portrayed it in a way that was really authentic and believable, and the chemistry between her and Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards was really cool. Johnny Storm, I thought what I really appreciated about this version of Johnny Storm is that he actually was intellectual. He was smart. He had, I would say, appropriate humor in that it wasn't misplaced or like cheesy one-liners like the original Fantastic Four was with Chris Evans. So he did that really well, and he's Joseph Quinn is such a weird-looking dude. Like when I see him in interviews, he feels a bit like an alien. But I love his acting. He's great in Stranger Things, great in this. He was great in A Quiet Place Day One. I love him. And the thing is as great as you'd expect him to be. His CGI is really done well. He seems to be developing something relationship wise, and there's a lot of intrigue there, and I want to see where that goes. I want to see what happens with these characters. As a dynamic, the family was interesting to watch. Intimate moments, families together around the dinner table. I really enjoyed seeing them interact with each other. That was great. So next I'd like to talk about Galactus and Silver Surfer. Galactus was, in scale, I think it's quite challenging to portray a character as massive as Galactus. He is just such an overpowered being, but the way they portrayed him was just so epic. The intro and the trip to go visit him and his spaceship, and the way that they arrive and he's destroying a world, like just the scale of it all was awesome. The voice of Galactus, Rolf Ineson? I saw him first in The Witch, and the guy has just the deepest voice, and listening to it carries that resonance of power. So I think they did a fantastic job casting him for that. Silver Surfer, Charlotte Ball. She was awesome. The way they did her surfing through space and the space-time tunnel chase that was happening, and I wanted to see more of her. I think that was a lot to be interested in with her story. Ultimately, the proposition that Galactus puts towards Fantastic Four with, I will spare your world if you give me your baby. What a great way to kind of challenge this ethical dilemma, right? You want to kind of see what happens and practically how this will play out. And I think that was a great way to kind of wedge the story in. The thing that influenced me the most in this film, that struck me the most, where I was actually feeling something, was like, whoa, man, this is really hitting me, was when Sue Storm is busy just using her powers. She's like, you will not take my baby. And she is just going at Galactus. Like, this chick's crazy, man. Like, Galactus is supposed to be more powerful than Thanos, right? He's supposed to be this insane guy. And Sue's just like taking him on. And it's like one of those things, like mother trying to save her child will flip over a school bus, like probably one of those situations. It was one of the moments where while I was watching it, it hit me and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. There's something about a mother fighting for her child that strikes a chord with me. So that was awesome. That was really, really awesome. And I think overall, the feeling I had that I appreciated coming out of this film was, it feels like with Thunderbolts and then with this, Marvel's on the rise. The quality, the story, everything seems to be heading in the right direction. And that's something I really can get excited about, because Marvel at its peak is just amazing. So that's the things that I really loved about the film, that I enjoyed about the film. Now I want to talk about the things that I feel like I wish there was more of, or why I felt like it wasn't great. One of the first things I thought of when I saw that this was taking place in Universe 826 or something, 81, I don't know, whatever the number is, I thought, well, yeah, we can't go to the 616 universe because everything's in a mess right now as far as storytelling goes. It's kind of nice to take a break from all of that and kind of just reset and watch something that doesn't have the influence of all the other heroes, and just kind of be like, this is a story in its own world. But the thing that kind of struck me was, it felt like the world as a whole in the Fantastic Four universe was kind of like one person. It didn't seem to be like there was a divisive structure. And I think maybe it would have taken too much time to kind of have that be the case. But, there was moments where everyone loves the Fantastic Four. And then they go to visit Galactus and they come back, and then everyone hates the Fantastic Four because they didn't defeat them and they didn't give the baby away. And then everyone is like, boo, like, give away your baby. We hate Franklin. We hate children babies. Then Sue comes out and gives a speech, and then everyone's just like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. What makes sense? Yeah, no one's upset about this. Don't get me wrong. I thought that her speech was great, and I thought it made really, it was logical and practical. And she said that line, which was something like, we will not give our child up for the world, but we will not give up the world up for our child, or something. That was great. I liked that line. But we live in a world where, you'll go on YouTube and say, I really love Teletubbies. And then people will come online and say, me too. And then someone else will say, you're a terrorist. Like, there seems to be just the divisive nature in humans. Maybe this world doesn't have that the Fantastic Four live in. But it just struck me as odd that the world always seemed to be so happy to be on board with things. Another thought I had was, I've got little kids. I know what it's like having a pregnant wife. And I don't know what it's like going into space, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be like, hey, there's this galactic being who's going to destroy our world, and you're pregnant with our child. Why don't we just all go on a family trip into space with you pregnant? And clearly, I don't know when her due date was, but she looked pretty close. And they were just like, let's go out there to space and see what happens. And I wouldn't have done that, I don't think. Felt like a bit risky to me. But they do go. And then Galactus uses his power eyes and is like, you're giving birth right now. That was intense. But I just did feel like traveling into space with a pregnant lady was just a risk. An unnecessary risk. That someone as practical as Reed Richards would be like, I don't think this is. Let's just get a shoehorn in here. At least, she probably would have said, I'm coming with you and I will, blah, blah, blah. But there was just like no conversation about it. It's just like, yeah, she's pregnant. Come on, let's go. There is an aspect of this film that, because of Thunderbolts, set up my expectations for something that didn't happen, right? And at the end of Thunderbolts, there's the Fantastic Four spaceship is flying into their orbit. And they're like, oh, wow, okay. In this film, as you're watching it, you're thinking at some point this is going to happen. And when they're flying through space, running away from Galactus, which, again, that interaction with Silver Surfer and Galactus in his spaceship, I loved it. It was so cool, so epic, so awesome. The whole design, everything was great. But then when they're escaping and they're going through that, they're traveling through light tunnels or whatever it was, and then they decide we're going to have to fling ourselves past this black hole. The whole time I'm thinking, I've seen this. Isn't this in Interstellar? Like this is a scene that happens in Interstellar. And I'm thinking, oh, this is probably what happens. And that they completely skip a few months or a few years or something, and they come and the Earth's already been destroyed and they've failed. That would be such a great story. Because if they came from their universe with their baby, who could probably bring back their world with a snap of his fingers once he's grown up and he's got his full powers. But Infinity War was awesome because the heroes lost. And I thought, well, this is going to be what's going to happen here. But it just doesn't. Like, nothing happens with that, and nothing skips with that. And I guess they're super smart, and they were able to plan things perfectly and all that kind of stuff. And but it just I feel like my expectations were wrong for that scene. And I feel like they would have, I don't know much about science, but Interstellar told me things, and I believed them. So I just felt like something was going to happen with time that never did. Maybe I'm the only one who felt that, but I felt a little bit let down with that. One of the things I was really interested in was the relationship between Johnny and the Silver Surfer, Charlotte Ball. They seem to indicate that there was something there. Like, they're going to have some kind of emotional connection. They're going to start developing something. And this could lead somewhere, right? And maybe it still will. But the thing that I felt let me down was that there was no real progression in their relationship or in their story to justify why she ultimately sacrifices herself to save them at the end. Johnny Storm has his thing where he does research. His whole thing of like the whole plot that's going on with him, where he's like listening to these records and he's hearing these voices, and then he realizes it's her voice and the voice of her people, and he starts like learning their language, and then he kind of just plays this over a massive audio thing across the whole city, and she's like overwhelmed with grief. And it makes me think, man, isn't she like, she's the one choosing these places. She's investigating. She's saying, oh, that place, eat that place. I mean, she could direct them towards Jupiter or Mars or something. Like, why does, it's not really explained why she has to choose a place that's got people on it. Because it seems like Galactus flies past, some big planets to get to where they are. And so it's a bit confusing. I don't understand why he has to go and eat people. Why can't he just like eat a planet and then like, that's great, right? So she's choosing these places. She knows what she's doing. She's like actively aware of that. She even kind of says to him at some point, like, I know what kind of how horrible this is, and you'll just have to learn to deal with it as well. It just felt weird for me that the interaction of just hearing people suffering caused her to feel like, I'm going to change my whole perspective on life. And to think that none of the planets through thousands and thousands of years, seemingly, that Galactus has been eating, she's ever had the experience of thinking, oh, my conscience. What would have made this impactful for me, really, the sacrifice she makes, is if I felt like maybe there was a romantic connection between them. Because if she felt like, I feel connected to you, Johnny, I feel like I feel something for you, then she decides that's worth committing to, that's worth defending, that's worth dying for. That would have been so much more emotionally meaningful, rather than, hey, listen to this audio recording, people are screaming, don't you feel bad? Oh yes, I feel terrible, I'm changing my whole life course. That didn't work for me. Mole Man felt very much just like a plot device. Like the whole reason this villain existed is just so they could avoid Man of Steel disasters, where they could be like, "Oh, the world wasn't destroyed, and what are the stuff we've saved the people." And I'm like, it was a lot of time, I guess, they put towards that. That could have just been like explained by just saying, "Let's evacuate the city." There's no explanation needed. We don't need to know how the practical aspects of how they get around. Also, when Galactus gets there, he just scans, and he's like, "There's a baby there." If he scanned, he would have been like, "There's thousands of people underground. I'm just gonna stomp on them."
Everyone's doing their part. Are you?
The one thing I did also think was, like I mentioned before, the scene between Sue and Galactus was peak for me. I loved that scene. So the comics kind of illustrate Galactus as being so much more powerful than Thanos, right? But I don't feel like I witnessed that in this film. There was that kind of, his eyes glow and then like there's a cosmic magic or something that happens. I thought even if Sue was kind of constricting him with her force field, couldn't he still use his eyeball magic? That kind of, I feel, would have potentially solved some problems for him. I just felt like for Galactus, he was epic, he was awesome, his scale was great, but he mostly just jumped out of a spaceship and walked. Thought I wanted to see a bit more from him, but what I did see was great. And maybe they just want to leave a little bit more meat on the bone for later on in the more films when he's going to be fighting like, 50 Avengers or something in Avengers 10. So, the solid great things about this film is that we have a Fantastic Four worth getting behind. We've got comic book accurate depictions of these people. I'm looking forward to seeing these characters again and seeing where they go. And I'm curious to see how they connect ultimately. I must say that with Thunderbolts and now the Fantastic Four, they have introduced some seriously OP characters. Sentry, this dude has this black darkness lurking within him that can basically just like evaporate the world. And now we've got a little baby that can bring anyone back from the dead. I mean, they must be just saying, Franklin Richards, we need X-Men. Can you snap your fingers and kind of bring that about? Yeah, some seriously overpowered characters that I think it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that in the films. So, what did you guys think of the film? I thought it was really good. I thought it was a good film. I enjoyed it. I'm happy I watched it. I recommend everyone goes out and watches this movie, but I wouldn't say it was great. Marvel's on an upward trajectory. I'm looking forward to building from here. So, what did you guys think? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What do you think was better? We've got these two blockbusters, Superman and Fantastic Four, that have come out. I personally loved Superman a lot more, but I've heard a lot of people like Fantastic Four a lot more, and I think they justifiably have good reasons to. But yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and if you like this, give it a like. If you want to see more of the stuff I'm going to be talking about, feel free to subscribe and make my day. But other than that, have a fantastic, wonderful, lovely day.